Let's jump right into this. We're looking at an absolutely incredible ancient narrative today regarding Samson. And let me tell you, it's packed with secrets, wagers, and some pretty sudden violence. It's a story that's honestly just as much about human psychology and the total dramatic breakdown of a marriage as it is about superhuman strength. In this explainer, we're going to unpack a really fascinating chronological mystery. Think about this for a second. How exactly does a simple jar of wild honey and a 7-day riddle lead directly to the slaughter of 30 men? Well, we're about to examine a bizarre, high-stakes situation where we, the audience, actually know the secret right from the start. But the characters involved? They absolutely do not.
Section 1. Philistine Match, a controversial request. So our story begins down in Timnath with a seriously controversial request, and we immediately see this massive clash of motivations. Samson tells his parents he's seen a Philistine woman and literally demands, "Get her for me, for she pleaseth me well." I mean, he's driven purely by personal desire here. On the flip side, his parents raise a very strong cultural objection. They ask, "Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren?" You can totally understand their concern, right? They're deeply worried about him marrying outside their people, especially to a nation they're essentially at war with.
But here's where the dramatic irony really kicks in. The text explicitly tells us that his parents did not know this desire was actually of the Lord. It was strategically meant to seek an occasion, basically a confrontation, against the ruling Philistines. So his parents have no idea that this incredibly frustrating marriage dispute is really just the first step in a much larger, hidden, divine plan against the Philistines, who, remember, had strict dominion over Israel at that time. Section 2. The Lion and the Honey. A secret encounter. Okay, so as Samson and his parents journey down to Timnath to arrange this marriage, a totally unexpected and violent encounter sets the stage for literally everything that follows. Samson strays off into the vineyards, and suddenly, a young lion roars against him. Now, the text says, the Spirit of the Lord comes mightily upon him, and he tears this terrifying beast apart, completely barehanded. The text says he did it as easily as if it were a young goat. But here is the absolute crucial point. Samson possesses this mind-blowing superhuman strength, right? But he consciously chooses to keep this extraordinary event a total secret. He tells absolutely no one, not even his own mother and father. Well, sometime later, Samson is heading back to officially take the woman as his wife. Along the way, he turns aside to check on the carcass of that lion he killed. And to his total surprise, he finds a swarm of bees and honey right inside the dead animal. So he scrapes the honey into his hands, eats it as he walks, and even gives some to his parents to eat when he catches up to them. This beautifully illustrates how one secret just layers right on top of another. He freely shares the sweetness with his parents, sure, but he deliberately conceals the bizarre source of it. And why hide it? Because touching a dead carcass made him ritually unclean according to his culture. So by feeding it to his parents without telling them, he's actually committing a massive betrayal of cultural norms right under their noses. Section 3. The Impossible Riddle. A high-stakes wager. Now, this secret of the lion and the honey is about to transform from a hidden, personal triumph into a wildly high-stakes public wager. Samson goes to his bride, and as was the custom back then, he throws a wedding feast for the young men. The locals bring 30 companions to hang out with him, and Samson, he uses this gathering to set the terms for a massive bet involving these 30 men. The prize? 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. Let's be clear about this. In the ancient world, 30 changes of garments was an absolute fortune. We're talking about an outrageously high-stakes gamble here. So Samson looks right at his 30 companions and drops this riddle on them. Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. He gives them the full 7 days of the feast to declare the answer. And he does this knowing full well that without his secret, first-hand knowledge of that lion and the honey, there is no way they can possibly guess the answer. It is a completely uncrackable puzzle. Section 4. Betrayal. The 7-day wager. Just watch how the tension builds across the 7-day timeline of this feast. For the first 3 days, the 30 companions are totally stumped. They just cannot expound the riddle. And as the days tick by, what started out as a clever little wager very quickly turns into a desperate situation. The men start pressuring Samson's new wife, and she spends days weeping and pleading with Samson to just tell her the answer. By the 7th day, the tension escalates so fast, shifting from a frustrating party game to a literal life-or-death ultimatum. The stakes are violently raised right here.
The companions realize they are about to lose 30 incredibly expensive changes of garments, so they resort to extreme extortion. They go straight to Samson's new wife and tell her, "Entice thy husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn thee and thy father's house with fire." They even accuse her of inviting them just to rob them. I mean, the threat is absolute. Get the answer, or we will literally burn you and your family alive.
So how does Samson's ironclad secret finally collapse? Well, we see some intense emotional pressure applied. His wife weeps before him for the entirety of the feast. She uses classic emotional manipulation, crying, "Thou dost but hate me and lovest me not." Samson tries his best to defend his boundary. He points out that he hasn't even told his own father and mother, so why on earth should he tell her? But finally, on the seventh day, he breaks. The text simply says he told her because she lay sore upon him. It's incredibly tragic when you think about it. While absolutely no physical force, not even a roaring lion, could break Samson, the relentless emotional extortion from his wife completely fractures their brand new marriage and forces him to surrender his secret. And the very moment he does, she immediately betrays that secret to the children of her people.
Section 5. Revenge and the Aftermath. A Trail of Ruin. Armed with this stolen knowledge, the companions return to claim their big prize. On the seventh day, right before the sun goes down, we're talking at the absolute last possible minute here, the men of the city smugly present their answer to Samson. They feign total innocence and ask, "What is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion?" Boom! They have perfectly answered his impossible riddle. Samson's reaction is immediate, and it is visceral. He fires back with this culturally rich, deeply bitter idiom. He says, "If ye had not plowed with my heifer, ye had not found out my riddle." This shows us he instantly understands what happened. He knows he hasn't been outsmarted by their intellect. No, he has been betrayed from within his own household. And this isn't just a clever comeback either. Comparing his wife to a heifer, a young cow, being plowed by other men, was a profoundly insulting and emasculating accusation back then. It really signifies the absolute destruction of their marital bond. This brutal aftermath triggers a massive chain reaction of violence. Empowered once again by the Spirit of the Lord, Samson travels down to the city of Ashkelon. He slays 30 men there, strips them of their spoil, and uses those stolen garments to pay his debt to the men who answered the riddle. His anger is fiercely kindled, and instead of returning to his new wife, he retreats to his father's house, effectively abandoning the marriage altogether. And in a twist of dark, bitter irony, because he storms off in a rage, his father-in-law casually just gives his abandoned wife away to his companion, the very man he had used as his best man at the wedding feast. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to consider this. How does a single secret, born perhaps of pride and sealed by extortion, unravel trust so completely that it leaves a massive trail of ruin behind it? You see, this ancient text isn't just about a guy with incredible physical strength tearing apart a lion. It's really a masterclass in narrative tension. It shows us a tragic cascade of hidden agendas, broken trust, the utter collapse of a marriage, and the deadly, uncontrollable consequences of betrayal. Think about how fragile trust truly is, and what actually happens when the sweetness of a secret is violently brought into the light.